Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time, where we take you around the world of soccer, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You're listening to Season 6, Episode 9 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True Host Media and True North Radio, visit siouxsports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms for public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, we are delighted to bring you this episode of Full Time where we get to talk about the beautiful game. G, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing good. Managed to avoid all the rain, so stayed relatively dry today. How about you, Scarps? How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. First day back to school, and great to be back with all the students and back to a normal routine. So life is definitely good. In today's show, we will take one final look at the summer transfer window as it is now officially closed for 2025. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. Today's show is all about the summer transfer window. We will have one final look at the major dealings in the world of football as the transfer window is officially closed for 2025 and will reopen in January 2026. The following transfer market news comes from The Guardian. First, it's Alexander Isak, who goes from Newcastle to Liverpool for $125 million. The transfer saga of the summer ends with the Sweden striker signing a 6-year deal, promising to make history at Anfield. G, this is the all-time British record fee, of course. Liverpool got their number 9, my friend.
Yeah, breaking their own all-time British transfer fee they paid a couple months ago for Florian Wirtz. I mean, it's one of those moves where you look at the amount of money they pay, and like it's such an unfathomable number. But then you see his play and his output, and it makes perfect sense. You pay money for the best players in the world. I don't think it's kind of any deeper than that. He's one of the best strikers in the world. You're gonna have to pay one of the biggest fees to get him, and they did.
100%. And, everyone always says, how is somebody worth that type of money? And I tend to agree with that. But anybody's worth what the club is willing to pay at the end of the day. And this is what the fee cost. Liverpool got their man, and I think that he is just going to absolutely tear it up there. Scary, scary times ahead. Nick Woltemeda goes from Stuttgart to Newcastle for $69 million. The Magpies break their transfer record to land the Euro U21's top scorer, who was a longtime target for Bayern Munich. Gee, what a signing there for Newcastle.
Yeah, it's just I feel so bad for the kid because you're stepping into Alexander Isak's shoes. The expectation, unless he produces more than Isak, he's always going to kind of fall like beneath the expectation, which I do feel really bad for. But he's a great striker. 18 and 36 for Stuttgart in the last 2 years is really good for considering he was 20 and 21 at that time. I think he'll be fine in the Premier League. He's a big guy, so he's going to be able to play that kind of physical game. But again, I think I don't think the wider media or like footballing world is ever going to kind of see him as a quote unquote success just because of the shoes that he is going to have to fill in Alexander Isak.
Yeah, it's a very, very well point taken. I will say that I think with those shoes inevitably so difficult to fill, I think the Newcastle faithful will certainly love him and show him love, which will probably take him a long way. Yohan Wissa goes from Brentford to Newcastle for $55 million. The long transfer standoff ends on deadline day with the forward taking the famous number 9 shirt at Newcastle. Wissa told the press, "I am excited to wear the black and white shirt." G, over to you, my friend.
I love this transfer. kind of goes hand in hand with signing a kind of young, I don't call him unproven, but just kind of unexperienced striker. You back that up by bringing in a Premier League proven goal scorer for 49 and 149 appearances for Brentford. So basically one every 3 games. I love the combination. I love the fact that they're going to be able to play both of them together. One and rest the other. I really do like this transfer.
So do I. And if you're Newcastle, you couldn't have Isak go out the door with getting adequate replacements. And with these two, I think that they've certainly done a good job. Xavi Simons goes from RB Leipzig to Tottenham for 51.8 million. Thomas Frank gets his playmaker, who vows to bring flair, hard work, and discipline after the deal was agreed to, which will run until 2032. Gitano, a good one for Tottenham here.
Yeah, I know that we don't like admitting it, but this is a great move for them, especially the James Maddison injury. They kind of needed to bring someone creative into their midfield. But then also when James Madison's healthy, you can shift Xavi Simons out to the left, play them both as like kind of a 10 and an 8 together. Like there's a lot of tactical flexibility that he gives them, and he's still so young. He's only 22 years old. I feel like we've been talking about him for years and years and years. So yeah, just a fantastic signing for Tottenham, as much as we're going to hate to admit it.
Yeah, it's difficult to admit, but you got to call spades spades, and it is a fantastic signing. And to your point, there's a lot of tactical flexibility once Madison gets back into the team, and Thomas Frank certainly has that ability to maneuver things around. Alejandro Garnacho goes from Manchester United to Chelsea for 40 million. The left winger leaves Old Trafford after 144 appearances, sealing the anticipated move to what he said is the best club in the world. The deal will run until 2032. Gee, it's another attack-minded player who likes to play from the left who joins Chelsea. Make it make sense, bud.
I just want to clip in every single time that they've signed a left winger in the last 3 years, and we sit here and we go, why? They haven't sold a single left winger. They just stack them up. I don't get it. I understand why Garnacho wanted out of United. There were issues with the board, the manager there, like absolutely, but like I just don't see why Chelsea needed a 5th or 6th or 7th left winger at this point.
I would have sooner gone to Tottenham if I was Garnacho, really, because that one was on the table as well, and it kind of fell through. And not at the last minute did he go to Chelsea, but it was a bit of a U-turn. So yeah, I don't get this one at all. But here we are, and we'll see if he even gets any playing time. Mateus Fernandes goes from Southampton to West Ham for 38 million. In his opening statement to the press, the midfielder said this move is a big step in his career. The former Sporting player signs on a 5-year deal for 38 million plus 4 million in add-ons. Gitano, do you like this move for West Ham?
Yeah, I mean, I think they needed something. Kind of not like a marquee signing, but they needed something. The start of the season, or the end of the season, sorry, last season was not great for them. The summer has not been great for them. They just kind of needed something to give their fans a little bit of spark. The start of the season hasn't been great. I don't think it's going to, light the world on fire, best player in the league, but I think it's just a solid signing for them.
It's exactly it. It's a solid signing that kind of helps them, doesn't hurt them, but certainly West Ham needed more business this summer, and they've had a bit of a slow start to the season. Graham Potter already in a bit of hot water at the minute. Christopher Nkunku goes from Chelsea to Milan for 36 million. The France international ends his underwhelming stint at Chelsea with 18 goals in 62 games. He joins the Rossoneri on a 5-year deal. Gee, this is a rare outgoing for Chelsea.
Yeah, honestly, when I saw him in the transfer list and looked that he'd gone to Milan, I was shocked to find out he had double-digit appearances for Chelsea. I can't remember a single one. 18 goals, couldn't tell you a single one. It genuinely felt like he was there. He got hurt, and now he is gone. I hope for his sake, he's only 27, turns 28 in November. He's got plenty of time to kind of turn his career around, still playing for a top team in Europe. But yeah, Chelsea's needed a lot more outgoings. I think this is great for them in that sense, great for Milan, and they needed kind of something in their attack. Hopefully kind of finds his Bundesliga form in the Serie A. But yeah, just it's an all right transfer.
All right, indeed. And I totally agree with you in the sense that I don't know where the 62 games came from. Certainly don't know where the 18 goals came from. If I had to guess, maybe FA Cup, Carabao Cup, because this is not exclusive to the Premier League. But yeah, kind of, well, it was an underwhelming stint at Chelsea, so I hope he finds his feet at Milan. Delaney Bakwa goes from Strasbourg to Nottingham Forest for 35 million. Forest swoop in for the 23-year-old who said to the press, quote, "I am so happy to have signed for this legendary club," End quote. G, your take.
I think it's fine considering the fee they paid for him. You're not going to get, a superstar world beater, but only 23 years old, plenty of time for him to grow into that. I think the big thing for them is that he plays off the right. They've signed a lot of players kind of that can play like central and off the left, kind of Xavi Simons like kind of mold. So for them to go out and get like an out and out right winger, I think is fantastic for the actual quality of the squad and some bit of tactical flexibility. I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's a pretty smart move, I would say, and I feel like Nottingham Forest have done a bunch of these signings this window. Like no super trademark type player, but no duds either. Just those sort of
Yeah.
halfway guys, but enough to bolster the squad, no doubt. Kevin Santos Lopez de Machimedo goes from Shakhtar Donetsk to Fulham for 34.5 million. Fulham Vice Chairman Tony Khan told the press, quote, Kevin is a young and versatile talent with exceptional pace, and we believe that he can be an important addition to the team, end quote. Gee, finally some news for Fulham this transfer window. It's been incredibly quiet.
Yeah, honestly, kind of forgot they existed up until now. Um, I've got a special place in my heart for Brazilians coming out of Shakhtar. They seem to produce. There's something about Brazilians that go and play in Ukraine and then come to Europe. There's just a little something special about them. 22 years old. Everything I've seen from him so far, and like Twitter comps, has been super electric. I know that's not going to be full 90 worth and full season worth, but I really do like this signing for them.
Yeah, this I think is going to sort of spark the Fulham faithful and all of their supporters and give them a much needed lift as well. Elise Ben Seeker goes from Monaco to Bayer Leverkusen for 27.7 million. The homegrown creative talent at age 20 joins what he called the flagship club for German football on a 5-year deal which could reach up to 37 million with add-ons. G, take it away.
Yeah, similar to what we talked about. I forgot what club we were talking about. Just needed a lot. Sorry, it was Fulham. Very quiet in terms of incomings. Bayer Leverkusen had a mass exodus. 6 of their 8 most used players last season all out the door. Not a lot coming in the door, but I do like this one. 20 years old. Again, probably not going to help this season or next in terms of like actual output. But I definitely think for the future, a fantastic young signing.
Yeah, it's good that Leverkusen got something in because I'm going to actually mention a statistic a little bit later when we go through the winners of the transfer window and something that
I feel like I know exactly what one you're talking about.
yeah, more than likely. But it's good that they did get somebody in because they probably needed that for what they had leaving, as you said. Georges Makiutadze goes from Lyon to Villarreal for 26.8 million. The forward at age 24, who shone for Georgia at Euro 2024, signs a 6-year deal with the La Liga side after scoring 18 goals for Lyon last season. Gee, a nice pickup here for Villarreal.
Yeah, especially when you look at the fee they paid for him and his age. Like he's only turning 25 in October. Like you said, coming off a great Euros. I love the fact that they waited a summer to sign him after the Euros instead of doing the panic like wonder signing from the tournament. But yeah, I think for
Yep.
the amount of money they paid for him, I think the quality they're going to get out of him, I think it's maybe one of the better deals in terms of just like actual value of the entire window.
Yeah, no, well said. And I think Villarreal is on to make a top 4, top 5 run in La Liga this year, by the way. I really do believe that. And finally, Gianluigi Donnarumma goes from PSG to Manchester City for 26 million. Still only 26 years old, the freshly crowned Champions League winner moves to England after 5 years in Paris. G. Guardiola lands his man, and so do all Manchester City supporters with one of the best goalkeepers in the world, no doubt. This one is all you, my friend.
Freshly crowned treble winner, I should add in there.
Fair
Um,
play.
I don't know how we pulled this off. For 26 million, which is like before inflation, 10 million less than we paid for Ederson in the summer of 2017. You look at what Liverpool paid for Allison, like what Chelsea paid for Kepa. I really, I know that he had a falling out with the PSG like board, and there was, that's why he's leaving. But like 26 million pounds for arguably the best goalie in the world is just highway robbery. I know a lot of people have been saying that he's not as good as on his feet, like with his feet as Ederson. Nobody in world football is. And I think that the gap between Ederson and everyone else in terms of playing with the ball at their feet is almost so big that it's not even worth, like, you're not going to get a guy anywhere near as good as him. So if you're going to go get a new goalkeeper, you go and get the best shot stopper you can get, and that is Gigi Donnarumma. I am over the moon excited about this. I haven't had Italian to cheer for at City since Balotelli left.
right?
Um, it's just an awesome transfer.
It really is. And I don't want to say it took the footballing world by storm, but when it was initially announced, I want to say, what, 3 weeks ago, that this
Yeah.
was possible, something like that, everyone kind of sat back in their chairs, including you and I here on full time. But this is a huge move for Manchester City, the fee that you guys got him at. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of clean sheets. Let's just put it that way. So a huge signing indeed. And Gitano, we did not cover each and every single transfer that went down during the summer transfer window. Are there any that we missed that caught your eye prior to deadline day?
Just a couple I want to mention quick. So first of all, Ederson gone to Fenerbahce. Um, completely, I think he's maybe the most Guardiola player of all time. Completely changed the way Manchester City played football. Completely changed the way England and Europe played football. Um, no, I think he's so unique as a player. We've never seen a goalie who's been able to do what he could do. Obviously, the shot stopping and like the technical goalkeeping stuff was great, but what he could do with the ball at his feet is just incredible. 18 trophies at City, 6 Premier Leagues, multiple Golden Gloves, treble, quadruple, like Centurion, like none of that is possible without Ederson in net. Um, so yeah, gutted to see him go, but I mean, Donnarumma softens the blow quite a lot, not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Also want to mention Ilkay Gundogan off to Galatasaray. So it's great for him going back to his childhood club, one of his favorite clubs growing up. He has Turkish roots. Um, he only spent the one season back with City, but it was nice to have him back even just for those couple of appearances. Again, he's my treble winning captain. I'm always gonna have a soft spot for him. So again, sad to see him go, but at 35, it just kind of makes sense for him. And then the last one is not City related, but it's Nicholas Jackson to Bayern Munich on loan with
yeah,
an, I don't know if it's an obligation or option to buy. The reports I were reading were kind of varied. The Bayern are paying about 16 to 18 million in the loan fee, and then again, I don't know if it's option or obligation. Gets the total fee to around 70 million euros, which to me for Nicholas Jackson is just insane. I know he's only 24, but he's just never. When you look at the fees paid for other strikers that have put out similar output to him, 70 million is just like super duper inflated. And if Bayern were going to spend that money on a striker, they could have definitely got a much better striker than Nicholas Jackson.
yeah. You make so many good points there, and I can't remember if it's Gundogan or Ederson who's coming back to Manchester City for a Champions League match in the new year, perhaps.
It will be Gundogan because Leroy Sané is
Okay.
also at Galatasaray, so we're getting them back. We also get Kevin De Bruyne back with Napoli, which should be super nice.
Yeah, no doubt. So again, in the case of Ederson, I don't know, I have a soft spot for guys like that. Like I wish he would have gotten a proper send off, and who knows, maybe one day he will.
Yeah.
But yeah, you make some good points there with the three that you mentioned. I'm just gonna go with an Arsenal one for me. Piero Hincapi to Arsenal on loan. Hopefully he will sign afterwards because it looks like Jakub Kivior is going to go out the door. So a lot of hope there for him at center back. He's a ball carrying center back. Can't put him in the same bracket as John Stones, but kind of similar with
Yeah.
that sort of potential. So I like that signing for Arsenal, albeit it is just a loan deal. And now that the summer transfer window is over, let's talk a little bit about our winners of the transfer market, those clubs that did the best business. Gitano, can you give us your top five and any honorable mentions that you have for the winners of this year's transfer window?
As much as I don't want to say it, Liverpool have had the best transfer winner. Like they are the outright winner. They spent their way to the top of that list. Don't get me wrong, but they spent really well. Isak, Wirtz, Frimpong, just Ekatike, like just. And I know there's even more than that. The left back, Kirkez, like they've just the Italian center back. As one of the best transfer windows of all time. Yes, they
Yeah,
spent £500 million to do it, but that's the cost of running a successful football club. Also keeping England, Arsenal, I will say, are one of my top five. Finally went out and got that striker, solidified the attack with Eze and Madueke. Zubamendi in midfield was great. And then just a couple little ones here and there just to kind of piece it all together. A really, really great window for them. And then last but not least, Real Madrid. They did a lot of their business early in the window. We kind of forget about it.
yep.
But Alexander Arnold and Dean Huysen, um, plus the youngster Franco Mastenuonu.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I
The
wanted to say,
Argentinian.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, and really, considering the only exits were Luka Modric, who was 38 years old, and Lucas Vasquez, like, that's a pretty fantastic window for them. Um, and yeah, those would be like my like outright winners. Yeah.
Fair enough. I've got, well, to start anyways, Liverpool. Out of, this transfer window, it would be a 10 out of 10 if they would have landed Margehi. That literally fell through at the last minute. I think if they would have got Margehi, that would have been a 10 out of 10 window. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 because it just wasn't perfect, but it's the best transfer window that we've ever seen. No doubt about it. Arsenal, I think that they've strengthened their squad in every position and they landed a world class striker. So got Liverpool, Arsenal. I'm also going to throw Newcastle in there. And the reason why is because for what they lost and how they replenished and some, I think that that's a remarkable transfer window with a lot of work given the fact that they were in several difficult spots. So I'm putting Newcastle in my winners. I'm also putting Manchester City in my winners. Key transfers to bolster their squad, especially that last one there with Donnarumma. I think that Manchester City are bound to have a good season, at least one trophy for them. And as well, I'm putting Atletico Madrid in my top five. Very active, and they managed to strengthen their squad. Slow start to the season, but those signings will come good. A couple of honorable mentions. I said I was going to say it about Bayer Leverkusen. By the numbers, they were the top sellers this window. They sold the most and they brought in the most money. So I think that that could be reinvested in the future. PSG, simple and smart business, and I'm going to throw Nottingham Forest in there as well because they brought in a fair bit of players to bolster their European hopes this season. And just as there are winners, there are also the losers. G, who are your losers of this transfer window?
So just before losers, the only reason I don't have City and it kind of, like they had a really good window. Don't get me wrong, but I think just the glaring hole at right back and the fact that not only did we not get a right back, we weren't even like linked with a right back all summer. To me, that keeps the window from being like a good window. It was an okay window. But it's funny that you mentioned Bayer Leverkusen in your winners because I actually had them in my losers. So Wirtz, Frimpong, Ta, Adley, Shaka, Hrdecki, Kusanu, and Hincape, who all made 20 or more appearances in the title-winning season, all gone. Again, not enough kind of brought in to replace them. And I will say that I do feel bad for Eric Ten Hag, who's been sacked
Yeah,
after a couple games. The board kind of sewered him. They brought him in, basically sold all of the core of that team, did nothing to replace them. So yeah, I think he got hung out to dry there. But I don't think they had a great summer. Um, I also Bayern Munich. I'm keeping Germany, and not that they had a bad window, not that they made like terrible signings. I just don't think they did enough. I know like they're gonna kind of run the Bundesliga, obviously, but to really like challenge in Europe, I don't think they've kind of made any major acquisitions or really done much to really bolster themselves. They missed out on Nico Williams. They missed out on Marcus Rashford. Really only got Jonathan Tah in the door, and I think that was a free transfer. But they lost Sane, they lost Muller, they lost Coleman. And then also Jamal Musiala had a ACL injury in the Club World
yeah,
Cup and did nothing to replace him. Um, really, and then Luis Diaz was the big signing, who is a good signing, but I don't think when you look at kind of what they lost, he doesn't replace that on his own. And then, like we just mentioned briefly, Nicholas Jackson, just not it.
yeah. No, well said. And I just want to go back to Bayer Leverkusen. I put them in my honorable mentions only because what they did win is the financial gain. They didn't win anything on the pitch, obviously, because they lost so much, but they certainly won the financial aspect of it because they were top sellers. But I agree with you from a on-field perspective. I think it could be a disastrous season for them. My losers of the transfer window: Gitano, Barcelona. Basically, no business, financial instability, and they did miss out on some of their targets that they had mentioned, I guess, very loosely. I'm also putting Bayern Munich in there as well, an elite team with basically limited business, and they don't need to really strengthen for the league. But to your point, they need to strengthen for Europe. They didn't do that. I'm putting Wolves in my losers as well. For what they had going out the door, they didn't really replenish that squad nearly enough, and I predict them to go down. We did that in our preseason show. I think that this hurts them even more now, personally. Um, I'm going to put Manchester United in there only because I think it's kind of funny, but they did bring in a couple of guys.
I tried to
Um,
be the bigger man, Starps. I tried.
I know you did. I couldn't help myself because I can't put Tottenham in there because they're not. So I'm putting United in there. They did bring in a couple of key guys, but I think that they needed a couple of defensive reinforcements and an addition or two in midfield. They did bring in a goalkeeper on loan, I believe, at last minute, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure of what the plan is there. And I'm also checking in Chelsea just because they had massive spending this window, but it was a lot of the same sort of stuff. So I don't think that actually improves their squad. Honorable mention as well, just one, Aston Villa. I'm only putting them in there because they have European football, and I don't think that they were nearly active enough in the market to get that squad depth that they need if they want to make a big push later on in the season, even with a great manager in Unai Emery. And G, who for you was the best signing of the 2025 summer transfer window?
It's really hard to look past Alexander Isak. And it feels like a kind of a cheap one. Well, not cheap because he's the most expensive player in British transfer history. But it feels kind of like obvious to pick that. But I genuinely do think that he is going to have the biggest impact. I think any team in the world would have wanted to have signed him. So yeah, I think it's kind of a no brainer there.
Yeah, I'm fully with you. We knew that this deal was likely going to happen. It was like a 95% chance. It happened late, but he's a Liverpool player. You can't really look past it. In my opinion, it is also the best signing of the 2025 summer transfer window. And how about Gitano, the most surprising signing of the transfer window?
Um, it's funny in kind of the era of Fabrizio Romano and like all these in the nose. Not a lot of like you don't get a lot of like surprise signings, but I will say just and it's more just kind of not just the transfer itself, but everything around it, like the fee, like Donnarumma to City. Who at the
Yeah,
beginning of the window would have expected that? If you had told me at the beginning of the window that we had signed Donnarumma, I would have expected it to be in the north of 75, 80 million euros. But to get a keeper of his quality for 26 million euros, he's 26 years old. I just like that. If you had told anyone that at the beginning of the summer, I don't think they would have believed you.
100%. And I have a difficult time separating two, one of which being Donnarumma, but I'm also throwing in Eberechi Eze because
Yeah.
that deal, I mean, we were linked with the player forever, and then all of a sudden it completely went quiet, out of sight, out of mind. Tottenham jump in, basically Havertz gets hurt, we're in for him, and all of a sudden Arsenal land him. That one really surprised me because I truly and honestly thought that deal was off. And then
Well,
obviously the
he
Donnarumma,
was almost confirmed at Tottenham at that point.
yeah,
Like it
the deal
was.
was the deal was more or less done. So, I think between Eze and Donnarumma, those have got to be my two shock transfers of the windows, or if not a shock, certainly a surprise. And Gitano, what would you give this transfer window out of 10? Honestly, we haven't seen one like this before. What would you give it out of 10?
um, it's got everything that you would want from you had the big blockbuster massive money signings, you had the big shocks, you had like actual great value deals. I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10, but I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 9. I can't call it perfect, but this transfer window did have a little bit of everything, including all the drama that we so desperately love, even on deadline day. So I'm going to give it a 9. Again, we haven't seen a transfer window quite like it, whether you love it, whether you hate it. I don't think anybody in the world of football has ever seen a transfer window like this one. And with that, the summer transfer window is officially closed for another season. Gee, what a pleasure it was covering it with you, man.
Yeah, I'm so glad we finally got to talk about Arsenal signing a striker for you. Just we've been 3 years of this show, and that was the first real striker you've signed. So I was really happy to see that for you.
I appreciate that, man, and I'm glad that we got a striker through the door as well because we've been banging on that door for 3 years and plugging away on it on our show, and now we don't have to, or I don't say we, I don't have to complain anymore. The final numbers from the summer transfer window are as follows: 1,703 deals complete across the world of football, and a total of £6.7 billion spent. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full-Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full-Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is full time. As we bring today's show to an end, we want to extend our greatest thanks to all of you, our wonderful listeners, for tuning in. G, as always, well done, brother.
Well done to you as well. Again, thank you for having me. Glad that your school year has started. Glad that's going well for you. And just thank you for, and end of summer. It's just been a fantastic time. I appreciate the fight of you, Scarps. I'll censor that. Sorry.
Appreciate that, man. Really do. Glad for everything. Glad that we have our show. Glad that we can be connected in this way. And it was a great summer, and now we get back to a much different grind, but one grind that doesn't stop, and that is right here on Full Time, us talking about the beautiful game. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of September 22nd, 2025. In that show, we will take a look at Europe's Big Five as well as the MLS. We will preview the Champions League, and we will delve into some local and provincial soccer. As always, we'll keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at SiouxToday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.